As someone who was a devoted fan of the Disneyland TV show, I can tell you that my favorite episodes were always the ones when Walt would take us behind the scenes and show us how animated cartoons were made. This was also a wonderful way of visiting or revisiting his classic cartoon features, some of which I'd seen by then and some of which I hadn't. This show only whetted my appetite for more. One of the most remarkable shows Disney aired during his first season on ABC was The Story of the Animated Drawing. In it, Walt traces the history and prehistory of animation and pays tribute to its pioneers. You'd have to look far and wide to find a better or more straightforward survey of this subject. The wonderful optical devices Walt demonstrates were borrowed from the collection of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. But the two best sequences in the film were developed and dramatized by the Disney staff. A vivid and accurate recreation of Winsor McCay's vaudeville presentation of the landmark cartoon Gertie the Dinosaur.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Gertie the Dinosaur.
And a demonstration of how a theater organist would accompany silent cartoons, enacted by the studio's own Oliver Wallace. As in other such programs, certain liberties are taken for the sake of showmanship. The show opens with Walt flipping two animation drawings of Mickey Mouse that are fully inked. Later, an excerpt from Steamboat Willie is presented with a newly recorded soundtrack substituting for the original. And the book Walt refers to, The Art of Animation, didn't yet exist, except as a prop. On the other hand, there's a wonderful and informative demonstration of how subtle concept art for Fantasia was transferred to cells using innovative new techniques. The one aspect of animation Walt doesn't discuss is color, because this show, like all TV broadcasts at the time, was seen in black and white. The script for this show was written by a bona fide animation pioneer, Dick Huemer, who lived through a lot of the history he describes, having started during the teens before landing a job at Disney's studio in the 1930s. And the optical processes used to present some of this material were engineered by Ub Iwerks, another notable pioneer who made cartoon history right alongside Walt.
Walt Disney's Disneyland.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are.
Each week as you enter this timeless land, one of these many worlds will open to you. Frontierland. Tall tales and true from the legendary past. Tomorrowland. Promise of things to come. Adventureland. The wonder world of nature's own realm. Fantasyland, the happiest kingdom of them all. Presenting this week, the story of the animated drawing. Now your host, Walt Disney.
Most of us are inclined to think of the animated cartoon as a modern invention, like the airplane or the automobile. But actually, the idea of imparting life and motion to still pictures is as ancient as man himself. But in our time, we've seen this dream come true. The animated drawing has matured and has taken its rightful place among the fine arts. This picture is from our Nutcracker Suite, one of the musical numbers in our production Fantasia. Art galleries all over the country exhibited many such setups from that production. People bought them as they would any other kind of painting. Yet consider this fact. This picture moved. It's true, it only represents one frame of a motion picture film. But, delicate and intricate though it is, it came to life. Now, to do this would have been only wishful thinking as short a time ago as the 1920s. And yet the groundwork for this accomplishment was laid long before that. Now, we in the profession know that we owe a debt of gratitude to our forerunners. And it is to these pioneers that we dedicate this program on the history of the animated drawing. Their story is part of what is contained in this book, The Art of Animation. Compiling this volume has been a pet project with us here at the studio. It took considerable time and careful research. Herein you can read about the artists who dreamed and experimented, had their failures and successes, but somehow never gave up trying to breathe life and movement into the inanimate picture. In effect, this is a history of our craft. It begins in prehistoric times with the artistic efforts of our first shaggy ancestors, the cavemen. Here's a reproduction of a wall painting found in the famous caves of Lascaux in France. Apparently, the caveman artist was trying to depict an animal in action the only way he knew how, by drawing it in a running position. At the same time, give or take a few thousand years, in a cave near Altamira in northern Spain, another artist was at work. Note the double pair of legs. Now, if he had been able to alternate these leg positions, as we can with our camera, he would have achieved the miracle of animation. Primitive, of course, like himself, but basically correct. Here we have an Egyptian wall decoration of about 2000 BC. This mural of two wrestlers has almost the appearance of a strip of film. If we again take certain liberties and skip from pose to pose, we here also achieve animation of sorts. Around the year 1500 AD, among the great men of the Italian Renaissance was Leonardo da Vinci, artist and inventor. Here is his diagram on which he just intended to show the proportions of the human figure. But our camera can make it animate. By emphasizing certain positions of the figure, it moves and dances. And Leonardo da Vinci becomes an honorary pioneer of the animation industry. However, so far in our history, no one had actually caused a drawn image to appear to move. True animation awaited the recognition of a strange trait of the human eye. This is a principle known as the persistence of vision. Way back in 1824, a Frenchman by the name of Paul Roget demonstrated this with a simple toy called a thaumatrope. The name was derived from the Greek, meaning wheel of magic. There's a different picture on each side of the disc. When the disc is twirled, the eye retains for a split second the after image of each of the pictures. And so we do not see the separate pictures, but a combined impression. Thus, by causing the observer to see a picture that did not exist, Roget's thaumatrope clearly demonstrated the principles of persistence of vision. Yet this toy did not really generate any feeling of animation. The credit for doing that for the first time goes to Joseph Plateau, who invented a device that actually seemed to make pictures move. He called it a phenakistoscope, another word derived from the Greek meaning optical deceiver. A series of images are drawn in progressive positions of an action. Each picture is separated from the other by a slit. I'll show you how it works. The disc is held up to a mirror so that the reflected drawings can be seen through the slits. Now, when the disc is spun, the static figures change their positions. They definitely appear to move. This germ of the motion picture was a sensation in its day. Variety was provided for the one-man audience by extra discs containing other actions. Now, here's an innovation. You can enjoy one action on the outer rim and another on the center. Looks like in 1832 they already had the double feature. Plateau's phenakistoscope led to many other animation novelties. One of them was the zoetrope, or wheel of life. It was a drum rather than a disc. Now, the drawings were put on long strips. The strips were interchangeable. They were placed inside the drum, below the slits. Now, when viewed from the slits, the drawings definitely appeared to come to life when the drum was spun. From these one-man peep shows came a very remarkable machine that was able to project moving drawings onto a screen for audiences. And this was even before the invention of the motion picture camera and projector. Now, here on my movieola, I have a film that reenacts the story of Emil Reynaud and his remarkable theater Optique. Reynaud was a painter of lantern slides who lived in a small apartment in Paris in the year 1877. He was intrigued with the early animation devices. He studied and read all he could about them in the scientific periodicals of his day. Finally, he invented a machine of his own called the Prehistoric, which borrowed the interchangeable action strips from the zoetrope. But he replaced the slits on the zoetrope with mirrors set edge to edge around a revolving center. Each individual picture on the outer rim is reflected on one of the mirrors. And here, with the charm that still enchants and delights us today, the images glide and flow along with a mysterious life of their own. Still, Reynaud wasn't satisfied. Soon he hit upon the idea of drawing his pictures on strips of black paper. This enabled him to combine a background on a separate card with the action drawings. The complete effect was viewed through a tiny proscenium. He called his improved machine the Theater Praxinoscope. Here one could see a vaudeville show in miniature. Just a simple change of scenery, a new cast of characters, and a brand new act is ready to start. It doesn't matter that the entire performance lasts only a few seconds, or that the strip is made up of only 12 poses. It still keeps you spellbound. You want to see it again and again. But to Reynaud's mind, this still left much to be desired. He wanted something better and bigger. At last, he had it. The short picture strips had been expanded to a long band containing 500 hand-painted slides drawn on transparent gelatin. Small holes punched between each image foreshadowed the perforations on modern film. Each hole meshes into the teeth of the large wheel, rotating at the same speed as the 36 mirrors at the center. Each individual image is lighted up separately. By an interplay of mirrors and lenses, the ray of light is reflected back to a mobile mirror, which in turn projects the enlarged image onto a screen. By adapting the principle of the magic lantern to his machine, he was able to project a background onto the same screen. Here, his actors were life-size. Here, he could almost create the illusion of reality. From a toy in the home, his idea had grown into a form of public entertainment. Reynaud called it the Theater Optique. Here, the people of Paris could view a complete quarter-of-an-hour performance. In the course of his career as a showman, he produced 7 different shows, all accompanied by appropriate mood music. For more than 10 years, Reynaud worked here behind the screen that separated the audience from his primitive projection booth. And in this period, he played to over 500,000 delighted patrons. it is safe to assume that not many of his viewers ever gave a thought to the vast amount of effort that lay behind what they were seeing. And it is quite probable that not even Reno himself had the slightest inkling of the heights toward which his first true prototype of the animated cartoon was pointing the way. By the end of the 19th century, drawings had been made to appear to move, but only in a limited way. Progress was again waiting on invention. And this came with the development of the motion picture film and the motion picture camera. This new medium opened the door to further experiments with the animated drawing. In the year 1906, J. Stuart Blackton made a short film novelty called Humorous Phases of Funny Faces. The drawings were made with chalk on a blackboard. The movement was affected by erasing and redrawing parts of the figures. Stop-motion photography created the action. Winsor McCay, the famous newspaper cartoonist, made several noteworthy experiments with animation. Among them was his film, Gertie the Dinosaur. Gertie was not presented in the way modern films are shown today. It was part of a vaudeville act in which Winsor McCay appeared on the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Gertie the Dinosaur. I will speak to Gertie, and she will do everything that I ask her to. Come on, Gertie. Come on out and take a pretty bow. That's a good girl. Now come on up front here. Bow to the audience, Gertie. Stop that nonsense. Let's get on with the act. Now, will you be a good girl and make your bow to the audience? Okay. That's enough. Don't overdo it. Now, raise your right foot. Come on, Gertie. That's good. Now raise your left foot. Your left foot, Gertie. Your left foot. Never mind that sea monster. Your left foot. Come on, Gertie. Now stop acting like a dim-witted dinosaur. Take it easy, Gertie. You're a bad girl. All right. Now stop that crying. Here. Here's a nice pumpkin for you. Good, huh? Now will you raise your left foot? Thank you. My, you have an appetite today. Aren't you afraid you'll spoil your figure? Well, let's get on with the act. Gertie. Gertie, pay attention. Oh, it's Jumbo. Now, Gertie, don't hurt Jumbo. He's just trying to be friendly. Aren't you ashamed? Well, folks, that's how dinosaurs are. Unpredictable. But she does have her gentler side. As a matter of fact, she's a student of the dance. And if the orchestra will play a tune, she'll perform for you. Light on her feet, isn't she? Oh, by the way, this is the latest dance. The dinosaur dip. Now, Gertie, you had that coming to you. Now, roll over and play dead. That's fine. Now get up. Come on, get up. Let's get on with the act. Up. Up on your feet. Hey, Gertie, look at that four-winged lizard. Did you see that? You're not in the habit of saying things, are you? How'd you like to have a little drink? Huh? Well, there's the lake. Go on. Take a little drink. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Gertie will show you that she's not afraid of me. And take me for a ride. Alley-oop.
Winsor McKay's Gertie and other animation novelties stimulated a great public interest and created a demand for this new medium. This, in turn, encouraged other pioneers to creative efforts that, in time, led to the establishment of the animated cartoon as an industry. One of the pioneers, J.R. Bray, invented the basic patterns for animated cartoon production. For a time, the Bray Studios were practically the creative center of the industry. His Colonel Hazelire was the first animated cartoon character to appear in a series of films. And there was Raoul Barry, Canadian artist and painter. Among the many cartoon characters he created was Silas Bumpkin, who appeared in his early film series called The Grouch Chasers. And this is Earl Hurd, who invented an improvement valuable in speeding up production of animated cartoons. His pioneer film effort was the Bobby Bump series. And there was Pat Sullivan's cartoon character, Felix the Cat. This characteristic walk, animated by Sullivan's collaborator, Otto Mesmer, became a laugh-provoking trademark. These, then, are some of the pioneers who led the way. By the mid-1920s, the animated cartoon industry was flourishing. This was the era of the silent screen. And although pictures were made without sound, they were seldom shown in silence. Music played a vital part in their presentation. Here is Oliver Wallace, who in 1910 was the first to accompany silent pictures on the theater organ. Today, he is still creating music for pictures as one of our staff composers. Through the magic of makeup, we'll try to take him back to the days of the silent pictures.
It's coming, but we need to take off about 10 more years.
10? Can't you take off at least 15?
Yes, I'm just the thing here to do it.
Oh, why didn't somebody tell me about these things?
That's about right, but there's still something missing.
Oh, I'd forgotten about those, you know.
Thank you.
How's that?
Now that we've taken Oliver Wallace back to the period, he will demonstrate how the theater organ was used to create the music and sound effects for silent pictures. Are you ready, Ollie?
All right, quiet, everybody. Roll 'em.
The picture is by another pioneer of the industry, Max Fleischer. An innovation of his films was the combination of human and cartoon characters. Max Fleischer himself appeared in these pictures with Coco the Clown. 1928, sound came to the motion pictures. To the movie industry, that is the animated cartoon and regular motion pictures alike, a new chapter was opened. Our first sound cartoon at the Disney studio was Steamboat Willie. This was also the first public appearance of Mickey Mouse. Audiences were astonished to see drawings apparently making their own sounds. In 1929 came our first silly symphony cartoon, The Skeleton Dance. By 1938, animated cartoons had improved to a point where audience interest could be sustained for more than 6 or 7 minutes. And so, the cartoon feature became a possibility. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was our first feature-length cartoon. And then, The Adventures of Pinocchio followed. These are examples of the storytelling pictures. That is the animated illustration type of cartoon. Now to return to the premise of animation as a new art. The principal object of any of the fine arts is to arouse a purely emotional reaction in the beholder. Our example here, you remember, is the Nutcracker Suite from Fantasia. This type of cartoon did not rely upon telling a story, but rather it attempted to create an emotional response in the audience by combining form and color and motion to interpret fine music. Now, during the making of the Nutcracker Suite, every effort was made to retain the fragile character of the inspirational sketches, most of which were rendered in pastels and chalks. In adapting such drawings for production, it became apparent that the usual hard ink lines and flat opaque areas of color could not do them justice. All the beauty of the original conception would have been lost. To retain the ethereal quality, transparent paints were developed. To reproduce the pastel effect, a dry brush technique was used. In this technique, the brush is wiped almost dry of paint before application, leaving a grainy, chalk-like texture on the celluloids. Where soft lights and shadows were called for, airbrush was used on the action cells. Backgrounds received as much time and attention as many a gallery oil painting. Here is our single-frame motion picture film completed. The care that was taken here is typical of the more than 20,000 frames that comprise the Nutcracker Suite. But the results of all this effort still only represented 1/2 of the fine art of animation. The other and equally important half was the music.
This has been an ABC Television Network film presentation.